What if the reason that you keep attracting unavailable men, ignore red flags in their character, and repeat the same relationship patterns isn't because you haven't tried hard enough not to, but because you're trying too hard to control what only God can change? In this episode, I'll share how prayer, healthy boundaries, and surrender help me grow beyond old patterns and how that growth can become your testimony too. Is waiting for physical intimacy until marriage taking too long? Are you tired of repeating the same relationship mistakes? Do you want to build a relationship God's way? If that's you, you're in the right place. Hey, I'm Maria, married to a godly man I never thought I deserved, and I learned how to experience true intimacy without compromising my values. If you're ready to grow closer to Jesus, heal from your past, and make wise relationship choices, let's discover your godly love story. If you're struggling with waiting for physical intimacy when you know it's God's plan, head over to my website, firstkissstory.com. That's one word, First Kiss Story, and explore the collection of real life stories from women who've broke unhealthy relationship cycles by surrendering their own ways to the Lord, setting healthy boundaries, and allowing Him to transform them. Sometimes hearing someone else's journey reminds us that we're not alone. FirstKissStory.com is filled with stories from women that I've personally interviewed about reclaiming the meaning of physical intimacy within marriage. It's not about whether or not you've ever kissed before. Think of that very first kiss on the wedding altar. It's that first intimate moment shared within the safety of a marriage covenant. It represents unity, devotion, and God's redemptive design. That's what the Waiting Until Marriage podcast is all about. And if you're looking for a community of women who are walking out the same journey, I'd love to invite you to join my private Facebook group. It's a safe place to find encouragement, ask questions, build meaningful friendships, and grow alongside other women who are pursuing God's best for their relationships. To join, simply search Facebook for Women Choosing Abstinence Until Marriage. I'll also include a direct link in today's show notes. Not too long ago, on a Friday morning, right before my husband and I were about to go on our morning bike ride, we saw two puppies playing in the street right in front of our house. So we went out to ride our bikes. We came back and they were still there. And they were probably dumped. We couldn't take them in. Unfortunately, in our neighborhood, we live in an area where there's a lot of open space, and people use this area to dump unwanted dogs, puppies, litters, things like that. So we pretty much assumed that that's what the situation was with these little guys. Um, I I thought if I worked real hard, I can solve this problem. So I posted on Nextdoor, which is the neighborhood networking app, and Facebook community pages. I texted people to see if they knew who these dogs belonged to or if anyone possibly wanted these dogs. They were probably dumped. I contacted the local animal control and they didn't have any room for them. They actually didn't offer any help, but they did give me a list of lots of local rescues and shelters, actually not so local, in the large metropolitan area. Well, I called everyone or emailed, reached out in some form. Everyone on that list, there were 36 of them. And of those that responded, not one of them could help. Their fosters were either full, they didn't have any room, or whatever, they couldn't take them. So I thought, what am I going to do? So I became obsessed with trying to fix the situation. I fed him again that Friday night. I gave him water. Did one time I pray about the situation and ask God to intervene? Nope. Big mistake. I couldn't rest. Miraculously, they did stay in our neighbor's backyard. The neighbors were out of town. It was shaded. I fed them. I gave them water. This was Friday morning, Friday night, and then Saturday morning I did the same thing. They would come up running to me each time that I fed and I gave them water, fed them and gave them water. And I thought, what am I going to do? Well, my husband said, "You can't keep on feeding them because they're just gonna stay around." And I didn't want to hear that. So I did not feed them Saturday night. I did not give them any water. And I saw them Sunday morning. We were on our way to church. We went to church. I actually couldn't sleep that Saturday night, but I was sitting there in church and I finally let go and I gave this to God. And I said, Lord, you're going to have to intervene. I can't do this. I feel so responsible for these little guys. We came home from church Sunday afternoon and we found out from the Nextdoor app that someone came and got them and they had connections at the local SPCA and they were able to take them there and they were already placed in a foster home by that evening. Well, guess what? A couple of days later, two more puppies, probably from the same litter because they look the same. And so, probably when they were dumped, they got scattered. So, these two other puppies appeared. They were in another part of the neighborhood, and a neighbor did take them in. Well, I didn't take responsibility of these little guys this time, but I did reach out and offer some help to try to help place them. I was fully expecting God to come through again, though, after I didn't give the first situation to God. And then when I did, he immediately found a home for them. I thought, I'm fully expecting you to do this again. So this neighbor kept them for a week, and then she was renting. Her landlord said they have to be out by Monday, which was Monday a week after the Monday that she took them in. And guess what? She found a foster home Sunday night prior to the Monday. And in that situation, God did again what I couldn't do. I don't think God was only finding homes for puppies. I think he was teaching me something about myself. The circumstances in these two separate puppy situations were almost identical, but I wasn't. The first time, I carried the burden as if everything depended on me. The second time, I did what I could, but I trusted God with what I couldn't, and that was growth. Let me challenge you with this. Every time we surrender control to God instead of trying to do things our own way, see how He uses that surrender to transform us, and eventually that transformation will become our testimony. When I made the decision to save physical intimacy for marriage, was it frustrating? Yes. Was that decision stretching me? Absolutely. I remember thinking, if I just do this my way, I'll probably find a husband a lot quicker. But then I had to ask myself, what kind of husband and what kind of relationship would I have found by doing things my way? I didn't want another relationship built on the same patterns of my past. I was trying to get out of that. I wanted real change. I wanted a relationship built on purity, commitment, and devotion to God. And if I truly wanted what God had planned for me, I had to stop trying to control the outcome and surrender it all to Him. The miracle here was not me finding a husband while remaining to stay pure. The miracle was the change that was happening in my heart. I was learning to trust God instead of trying to control my future. I was learning to recognize unhealthy patterns instead of repeating them. I was learning that obedience wasn't about getting God to give me what I wanted. It was about becoming the woman He was calling me to be. In my website, firstkissstory.com, I've interviewed several women, and a lot of those women have made the decision that they wanted to grow. And here's some things that they told me about that facilitated the growth in them. There was a woman who stopped chasing relationships and she learned to wait on God. There was a woman who finally established healthy boundaries. There was a woman who surrendered a relationship that she desperately wanted. And there was a woman who stopped compromising physically. They all have different stories, but they all share one common thread. They decided that they were no longer willing to repeat unhealthy relationship patterns. They set boundaries, surrendered their situations to God through prayer, and they watched as He changed them. And that change, that growth, became a part of their testimony. It's a lie to think if I don't take control, nothing will ever change. Notice how serious that sounds. Nothing will ever change. It sounds so final. What a lie. Or what about the lie that says, I have to be the one that makes this relationship work, or God isn't moving fast enough for me, so maybe I'll just help him out a little bit. But the truth is that growth doesn't happen when we keep doing things the way that we've always done them and simply hope for a different outcome. Growth happens when we surrender our old ways to God and allow Him to teach us a new way to live. Now, He may or may not change our circumstances the way we want, but He will use that surrender to change us. And sometimes the greatest blessing isn't getting the outcome that we were trying so hard to control. It's becoming the woman we never could have become by continuing to do things our own way. That's how unhealthy cycles begin to break. We recognize the pattern, we surrender it to God, and then we make different choices. And those different choices, repeated over time, become growth. And how do we change the way we used to do things? Through healthy boundaries. Boundaries are not there to keep people out of our lives, but instead they protect us by keeping us walking in God's best for our lives. Abstinence until marriage isn't about saying no, it's saying yes to trusting God more than our feelings. Here are 3 practical steps you can take. Number 1, recognize the cycle that you've been in. Ask yourself, what are the patterns that keep repeating in my life? Number 2, surrender it to God. Not once, like in my puppy story, twice, or more realistically, surrender to God daily. Release control instead of trying harder to make things happen your way. And the third one is build one healthy boundary. Instead of trying to change your whole life overnight, choose one boundary that reflects your trust in God. That might be in the form of not chasing a man, not ignoring red flags in a man's character, protecting your physical boundaries by not putting yourself in compromising situations, or spending time with God in prayer before making relationship decisions. Proverbs 3, verses 5 and 6 say, trust in the Lord with all your heart and lean not unto your own understanding. In all your ways acknowledge him, and he will make your paths straight. What you'll discover is that every surrendered choice becomes another chapter in your testimony. One day, you'll look back and you'll realize the miracle wasn't only that God brought the right relationship, the miracle was that he transformed you into someone who could recognize and receive it. That's the kind of testimony that gives hope to the next woman who's still stuck in the same cycle. There is so much more to share with you. Visit firstkissstory.com where you'll read stories of women that I've interviewed who also broke unhealthy relationship cycles by surrendering their own ways to the Lord, setting healthy boundaries, and allowing Him to transform them. Share with me through the contact section of the website which story impacted you the most and what topics you'd like to hear on this podcast. To join a community of women who are walking the same journey, head over to my private Facebook group, Women Choosing Abstinence Until Marriage. It's also linked for you in today's show notes. Hey friend, I'm really glad you were here today. If this episode spoke to you, would you take 30 seconds to share it with someone who's trying to do relationships God's way too? If you have a moment, leave a quick review on Apple Podcasts or wherever you listen. If you haven't already, follow the Waiting Until Marriage podcast so you don't miss what's coming next. It means so much to me knowing that this is helping you walk in healing and faith. All right, I'll meet you back here next week for another episode. Let this be one step closer to the love story God has written for you.